Sullivan only needed to prove the ad had mistakes in it. It did, but not serious ones. The U.S. Supreme Court sided with the Times, saying the First Amendment sought to encourage robust public debate. 2 decades ago, however, First Amendment law professor David Logan crunched some numbers and concluded that Sullivan made it hard to hold news organizations accountable for their false.
Said, the chances of a media defendant paying substantial damage for a libel case is like being hit by lightning.
Times have changed since then, and not in Logan's judgment for the better. He suggests new limits to the Sullivan ruling.
It will be a more fair system with more deterrence of sloppy, hot-headed publication driven by the 24-hour news cycle and the competitiveness to get there first. And if the news cycle slows down by an hour or two and people are incentivized to do a little more fact-checking, I think that's for the good.
Justice Clarence Thomas made it clear a few years ago he'd happily scrap New York Times versus Sullivan altogether. Professor Logan's legal writings have now inspired Justice Neil Gorsuch to argue for revisiting the Sullivan ruling. Both Thomas and Gorsuch are conservatives, yet before she joined the court, Justice Elena Kagan, a liberal, had published her own doubts about the court's position. Professor Lakier says some changes could be valuable, but she warns that erasing Sullivan's protections for the press would be perilous.
So in that world, we would worry that journalists, bloggers, anyone who is reporting news are going to be very unwilling to report on controversial news because they will know that as soon as they do so, they may be facing liability. And this isn't a mere theoretical concern.
Eve Burton says she sees cases spiking up. She's the chief legal officer for the Hearst Corporation, which owns newspapers, magazines, and television stations.
It used to be people would sue you because they felt that you got the story wrong.
Burton says public officials accused of wrongdoing now sue the media as part of a PR offensive. And she says wealthy backers bankroll plaintiffs to drive news organizations out of business, though not all suits are technically for defamation.
Now, lawsuits are just a part and parcel of daily life.
Republican Congressman Devin Nunes sued Hearst's Esquire magazine. Trump recently sued the New York Times in his own name, the first time he's done so after many threats. And full disclosure, NPR is facing such lawsuits, and so am I. Watering down New York Times versus Sullivan could make it easier to file them. David Folkenflik, NPR News.
Last. You're listening to
Leader didn't say anything.
Support for KERA comes from you, our members, and from UT Southwestern and Texas Health Resources, who've joined up to fight COVID-19 in our community. More about how you can help at utswmed.org/COVID study. Tech Elevator, a tech training program aiming to help people change to a career in technology. You can learn more about the 14-week program and see a list of Dallas employers hiring in tech at techelevator.com.
เช้านี้เมื่อคืนนี้มันไม่เปิดคอมพิวเตอร์ไว้ตอนนี้ก็ยังเปิดอยู่โอเคแต่มันไม่ถอดปลั๊กออกไม่รู้
She joins us to tell the story of Reggaeton's humble origin and the message it
So battery is still good to me.
I'm not sure. I didn't check yet.
Don't miss your chance at the vacation of a lifetime with KERA's Experience Europe raffle. For $100
มันยังเวิร์กนิดหน่อยไม่อยากจะ
KERA, you'll be entered to win a 7-day free tour of the city of your choice, London, Paris, or Rome. Get your ticket at KERA.org/Europe-raffle. Only 1,700 tickets will be sold, and the deadline to enter is less than 2 weeks away. So get yours today. KERA's
Do you work
Experience Europe
tomorrow?
raffle is brought to you by KERA and Rick
I don't work today ถ้ามันมีเคสมาแต่เมื่อคืนนี้
This felt almost like we were
เพราะมันไม่รู้ว่า
a silent
government
film in a way.
have a fund
Explosions in the sky drove Chris Rasmussen to
transmit
the band's sound.
ดูเคสเหมือนกับ
The next Texas stand.
ดู
KERA News.
ซื้อโครมดีหรือซื้อคอมพิวเตอร์ดี What difference between Chrome and
Chrome is cheaper.
cheaper
Yeah.
มัน fast ด้วยนี่ใช่ไหมมันเปิดจับติดง่าย
Yeah.
ใช่ไหม
ใช่
ที่จริงใช้โครมก็ได้ของนี้ไม่ได้ไม่มี memory I don't need it ใช่ไหม just check email check news นิดหน่อยแล้วก็ find people find เสื้อถูกๆเลยเนาะ
อืม
เผื่อมันเสียมันจะได้ไม่เสียดายเงินถูกไหม
อืม
How much to pay brand new phone?
May look. I'm gonna have to check.
Doing oral interviews.
And then that transcript, which might be many hours long, is edited down into a linear narrative.
Then the authors and editors fact check and streamline.
So it still has that
อันเก่า
visceral
ไม่
first
ซื้อ
person,
ยู
I'm
ซื้อ
telling you a
ซื้อ
story,
นิว
person
มัน
to
โอเค
person kind of sound to it
อัน
rather
ที่
than
วีซื้อมามันเก่า
labored
ใช่ไหม
prose, I guess, that sometimes might
On the back,
result. If we said, go write your book,
Oh,
and
it's got
take
go.
2 years to do it or
แต่ก็
whatever.
we
Now,
use
kids,
for a few
parents,
years
or
ถูกไหม
teachers listening might be thinking
How long we use
Eyewitness
that-
sounds a
this
lot
one?
like I Survived,
I don't know.
a hugely popular children's
I
series
mean, 1 or
about
2
major
years.
events and disasters. The difference is that the I Survived books are historical fiction and all written by the same person. Eggers says he likes those books and isn't trying to compete with them. He believes there's plenty of room for more personal narratives for kids.
Kids are just
ที่จริงไอ้ครู
uniquely
มันเนี่ย
wired
อันที่มันเสียเนี่ย
personal story.
มันมี warning มาหลายวันแล้วมันไม่
protagonist is
ไม่
around
ได้
the
ให้
same
คุณ
age
วี
as
ดู
them, and I think that's been
warning
the
something
case.
Oh, warning อะไร
warning about what gonna happen ที่วีจะไปสำรวจได้ไหม
ได้
ได้ใช่ไหม
That's Autumn Abba reading from her story, Accused. Like a lot of Muslims, she and her family faced an onslaught of racism and discrimination.
เป็นตัวเล็กๆๆๆข้างล่าง
16,
มันมีก็ไม่ได้สนใจ
family's apartment in
Hmm.
East Harlem.